Kenya to Colombia, from Iraq to Korea, in slums, in schools, in prisons, and in theatres. Every day, people gather at TEDx events around the world to hear the best ideas bubbling up in their communities. Today, you are part of a global conversation about our shared future. So what is this TEDx? TEDx is an initiative of the TED Conference, a non-profit devoted to ideas worth spreading. We grant free licenses to allow TED-like events to spread globally. This event today is based on the TED Conference format and ideals, but is independently organized by your local community. So please make sure to thank the team of volunteers who worked so hard on today's event. It's their ideas, dedication, and time that made it all possible. It's they who booked all the speakers, and the views you'll hear today are, of course, those of those speakers, not necessarily of TED's. We hope their talks spark an exciting conversation among you. This is a day for curiosity and for skepticism, for openness and for critical thinking, for inspiration and for action. The more you enter into it, the more you'll take out. And now, on with the show.
I always find that impressive. Welcome to TEDx Baldwin High School. My name is Daniel Harold. I'm an English teacher here at the high school, and I'm the organizer of TEDx Baldwin High School. The theme this year is Game Changer, and to describe the theme, I want you to think about one thing: horse manure. Now, why do I say this? Because back in 1894, a writer for the London Times noted that in 50 years, every street in London would be filled with horse manure up to 5 feet high, because, of course, all the horse-drawn carriages would be increasing over time. Well, obviously that didn't happen. There was a game-changing moment, something that they couldn't have even conceived of in 1894. The world was unmade for the horse-drawn carriage, and the automobile was introduced. And in the same way, many of the problems we see in the world today, big problems, real problems, are going to be solved not by small tweaks, but by game-changing moments. We hope that tonight we're able to get you to think about a few of these game-changing moments. Tonight is one of our first student-only sessions of TED. This is our third year doing it. We have an all-student lineup. They're going to be sharing stories with you that are both personal and global in nature. But you didn't come here tonight to hear me. So without further ado, I'll introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is very familiar with the Baldwin stage. She is a 3-time talent show winner, but tonight she has a much more personal message to share with us. Please welcome Alana Martucci to share about positive inspirations.
So, I've decided to talk about a most important subject that could completely change your life perspective, or at least your perspective on the subject: inspiration. And whenever I have a conversation with someone, no matter what age they are, older or younger, it just seems like such an oversimplified topic that I think can breach much more than just the surface. Now, inspiration, the definition, is a process, and I reiterate that it is a process, and processes take time, of mental stimulation to want to do something or feel something, especially something creative, but not necessarily. So with inspiration, I chose this topic because it's the root, and I wanted to talk about things like intention and perspective, but everything seemed to come back right to inspiration. And I'm speaking from personal experience here. There's kind of 3 ways I look at it. First, inspiration is everywhere, and you feel it, and you see it, and you acknowledge it, and then you can completely turn it into something different, bigger, and better, right? Or the second way is you see inspiration, feel it, acknowledge it, think about it, and then, now what do I do with it? Nothing comes of it. It's almost like a missed opportunity. The third way, you just don't see anything and you're walking around blind. And when this happens to me, I tend to blame the world. I'm just like, the universe is not giving me anything, but who's really to blame? Now, let's say you find that inspiration, you're seeing it, acknowledging it, and you want to turn it into something better. And inspiration can be applied to many different things. Again, not just creatively. Say you want to get fit, or like build muscle, get healthy. Why are you doing it? So intention. Applying an intention to whatever you're doing makes it that much more of a force. So you ask yourself, why do I want to get fit? And your answer is, I want to be healthy. I'm going to eat the right things. I'm going to exercise regularly. I want to be physically optimal in every way, shape, and form. And that's a beautiful reason to want to do it. Or maybe you ask yourself, why do I want to be fit? And your answer is, I just want to look good. I want to impress people. And you're using yourself to manipulate others. That's a bad way to use it, right? So applying that intention, there is a difference between positive and negative inspiration. And I think that's what people have problems with, is that we don't check our intentions enough. And no matter what we're doing. Maybe you want to be a doctor, and you ask yourself, why do I want to be a doctor? You want to heal people, you want to fix people, and you want to benefit the world. Or you ask yourself, why do I want to be a doctor? And your answer is, I want that nice house, and I want that really nice car, and I want to make a lot of money. That's the negative intention. Because positive intentions and inspirations benefit you and the people around you, whereas negative definitely don't benefit those around you, and they don't benefit you morally. Maybe you're an artist. Why are you painting this picture? Are you painting this picture because you want to inspire others and you want to express your feelings through a very beautiful expression? Or maybe you want to be an artist so you can make lots of money and you can become very well known, or you feel like you're higher in a way. And when you start bringing intentions into your inspiration, it becomes a moral truth. And a moral truth is the difference between what's right and wrong, because what is right, and what is wrong in every way, shape, or form. And us humans are such divine beings, right? We have something in us that tells us what is right and wrong, our conscience and our soul. And think about when you do something good for someone else. You get that feeling inside you, like you just made someone's day and that makes your day. And I know that when you do something wrong or you feel that guilt, you don't feel good. When you bring that intention of doing something good into your inspiration, and your inspiration turns into your passion. So you're using what you love to benefit others. That's a pretty incredible force. And back to that moral truth. We have that sense of morality, that moral compass. And continuing. But whenever we bring that inspiration in our lives and then we make it our job, and then we do what we love and we get those benefits from it, like, we get our job and we get those benefits from it and we make it our career. That's the word I was looking for. We make it our career. We're going to live such a blessed life. And you yourself become an inspiration to yourself and to others. So you yourself becomes that positive inspiration. And I've been thinking about that lately with what I want to do in my future. I'm graduating this year, and it just happens all so fast. And I'll be going to school for massage therapy. And when I talk to people about massage therapy, the first thing they really say is, "Oh, they make a lot of money." You could be working on cruise ships and travel the world and do things like that. And that tends to get to me sometimes. Like, this is a good reason, this is a good job for me to do it. And then I start thinking about how much I can help people, and working with people. And that's a pretty intimate setting, like you're healing people. And that just brings so much excitement into my life and for my future, because I know that if I keep my brain on healing people instead of focusing on the more physical things that I could have, I'm going to be so happy. And I just wanted to share that with you because I know that Baldwin is filled with so many passionate people in everything that they do. So I wish you all so much happiness and just good stuff on all your future endeavors. Thank you all so much.
I was always under the impression that buildings were created because the outside was just so terrible, people didn't want to be in it anymore. Of course, I've also never gone camping, and that was also before I met our next speaker, Karina Pittman. Karina is a student school board rep, a member of the cross-country team, and is here to tell you today about a raccoon, a sunburn, and a priceless experience. Please welcome Karina Pittman.
People often say that Disneyland is the happiest place on earth. But when I was a kid, I would have disagreed. I would have said summer camp is the happiest place on this planet. Most kids look forward to Christmas, and that feeling that you would get Christmas Eve or Christmas morning would be the feeling that I would get when I was packing my bags to go to camp or on my way there. Every single year, just like clockwork, from the second that I signed up for a summer session, I was already excited for the summer. To me, going to camp beat trips to the beach. It beat Kennywood. It beat vacations. It beat every single thing that I did all year round. It was more fun, more profound, and more entertaining than any other thing I did in life. I've been very lucky and fortunate that my parents sent me to summer camp, first when I was 8 years old, and then almost every year since. And then, when I was 16, I changed my life just a little bit more, and I got a job working at Girl Scout Camp, Camp Red Wing. There's an old saying, and it goes, you never want to be next to 3 different types of people on an airplane. Someone who just got married, someone who just got a new job, and someone who just got back from summer camp. And it's true. After I came back from working at camp, it was all I could talk about for 2 months, and you could ask my friends. Everything we would talk about, we'd be at cross-country practice, or we'd go out, and we'd be talking about whatever it was, and I would say, oh, well, this one time at camp, or, I worked with this girl this summer, and she did this, and it just went on indefinitely. And I'm sure at some point my friends got annoyed with it, my parents for sure got annoyed with it. For a while, I'm pretty sure they weren't even sure if I missed them at all. But the reason I was like this, the reason why it was so profound for me and I had to talk about it was because it was a complete life changer. Summer camp is an all-inclusive experience, and there's no place quite like it. I'm up here in front of you today to tell you that sending your child to summer camp could be the most important thing you could ever do for them and the most important gift you could ever give them. And here's why. Summer camp is a completely unique and non-traditional environment. And like I said, there is no place on earth that is quite like camp. Now, of course, there are thousands of camps across the globe, but they all have around the same core values. At camp, your child will learn empathy and friendship and love and what it means to be themselves. They will learn confidence, they will learn to overcome adversity and to celebrate their failures. And it's all due to the environment that is created by the staff, by the campers, by the administrators, and by the ideas themselves. It's not uncommon for an 8-year-old girl to go to camp and know no one there. And they're put into a tent with 3 other girls that they've never met before in their entire life. Think about how you would feel that in that situation. This girl's going to be timid, she's going to be shy, and it's going to be hard for her to talk and make friends. And of course, as counselors, you crack a few jokes, no one laughs, it's terrible. But by the second day, something really amazing happens. It's as though these girls have known each other all of their lives. They are best friends. And how is that? How could something like that happen when it takes years to forge a friendship in other environments? Well, for one, at camp, people aren't afraid to be themselves. It's perfectly normal to be exactly who you are. And the reason that is so is because there's nothing that bonds people together, like maybe sleeping in a tent for the first time, or being caught in a massive thunderstorm and it rains for 3 days straight, or singing silly, maybe slightly embarrassing songs. That breaks the ice. It breaks down the walls, and it makes it easier for these girls to get to know each other from an honest standpoint. And not only do girls make lifelong, or just children in general, make lifelong friends at summer camp, the people that you meet at summer camp aren't quite like the people that you know and are friends with at school. The people that you meet at camp are going to be different. They're not going to be like you. And the only way that I can kind of describe this to you, why this is I'm going to ask you to imagine a situation. Imagine maybe it's your first day of college or first day on a new job, and you walk into a cafeteria, and there are 20 tables all filled with people. You're going to walk in, and you're going to immediately make judgments that you're not even aware you're making. You're going to judge them on what they're wearing, what they're saying, what they're eating, and what they look like. And in a split second, without even your conscious knowledge, you're going to judge the people at those tables, and you're going to sit down at a table full of people that you deem to be most like yourself. That is one table. What about the other 19 tables of people? So often, we are confined by the walls that we build up ourselves, and we don't even know it. We're isolating ourselves from 95% of people that we know because we're afraid of difference. We're afraid of things that we don't quite understand. And so the people that you do meet at camp, they're going to come from different economic backgrounds. They have different family backgrounds. Maybe they come from different parts of the state, different parts of the country, different parts of the world. And for kids, this is a groundbreaking experience, because sometimes young kids are isolated. You know, they've lived in a town all their lives, and they've gone to the same school all their lives. They know around the same people, and they see the same people every day. And meeting new people for young kids changes them. It helps with their capacity for empathy and understanding. And it's almost infinitely expanding the way that once they can understand one person, then they can understand others. And we live in a highly divisive world, and you don't need me to tell you that. But there's really nothing more important than preparing our youngest generation to overcome adversity, to solve problems, and collaborate over differences, and come together over what divides us. And that's what kids learn at camp. Which brings me to my next point. So not only do you make friends, not only do these kids understand others and meet others that are different, they also learn to defeat problems, to overcome those challenges that we face every single day. And at camp, there are a lot of problems. Maybe it's a camper's first time ever being away from home for a significant amount of time. Maybe they're homesick. Maybe they're picky eaters, and they have to figure out what on earth are they going to eat all week in the dining hall. And trust me, that's a common one. Maybe they can't swim, or they're afraid of horses, and their mother unknowingly signed them up for a horse camp. Perhaps it's more complex than that. Maybe they have to navigate their way through a high ropes course, or complete team building challenges together. These are all things that kids are going to have to do while they're at camp. How do they solve them? Well, at camp, people are celebrated for exactly what they bring to the table, nothing less. The things that you bring to the table are your most important gifts. They're what you can contribute, and kids are celebrated for that. Not only that, but they also are collaborating with their peers, and they're doing all sorts of things to break down these barriers and learn to defeat these problems. It's so easy to put people in boxes. We do it every single day. We do this in school, we do it at work, we do it everywhere. And it's important to celebrate the successes that come from failure, and that's something that we do not do in school. For kids, especially in young kids, if you can't do math, you're not a mathematician. If you can't write, sorry kid, you'll never be a writer. Can't draw, you're not gonna be an artist. And if you can't play music, you're not a musician. And that simply isn't true. It is actually a known fact that every child is an artist and every child is a musician. There's no one that learns better, and there is no one that is more creative than young kids. So why is it that we put them down? If we could build them up, if we could teach them to celebrate the success that comes from failure, appreciate the journey like we do at camp, we'd have much more well-rounded students and well-rounded individuals and citizens. There are 8-year-olds out there that believe they are dumb. And that makes you think, how can an 8-year-old possibly believe they're dumb? They're 8, right? But somewhere along the line, this kid, maybe they failed a test, or perhaps there was something that their peers could do that they couldn't, and that idea was planted in their head. It's terrible. So ultimately, we need to learn a little bit from camp and to put that into our schools. We need to bring kids up. When I was 11, I went on this camping trip. It was 3 days. It was with a Girl Scout camp, and I canoed down the Allegheny River. Every night, we would stop at an island, and we would build our own tents and make our own food and filter our own water. And it was incredible. Not a lot of 11-year-olds experience those kinds of things. But for me, when I was 11, it wasn't very hard. I wasn't really in charge of anything. I wasn't responsible. I wasn't worried, and I could do it no problem. Perhaps other than maybe a few physical difficulties, such as being tired at the end of the day, really, it was very easy. Now, life is funny, as it often is, and I found myself going on the same trip as a counselor, being asked to help lead it, help manage it, and do all these things. And from the second that I found out, I was terrified. I was thinking about all the things that could possibly go wrong. What if a canoe tipped? What about the life jackets? What if it rains the whole time? Drowning. There's such big fears when you're actually responsible for lives. And I was thinking, how on earth am I being trusted to do this when my parents don't even trust me to do the laundry? It was crazy, right? So, of course, the night before, I was very nervous. I barely even slept. And I woke up the next morning, and we gathered the kids, and we went. And so incredibly, and so startling to me, which it shouldn't have been, everything went exactly as planned. Other than a raccoon, some really nasty sunburn, everything went so well. And I was so shocked. The girls had a great time. I had a great time. And I can honestly say that there's not a single event in my life that has changed me and has been more profound than those 3 days. Now, of course, I was afraid. Throughout the entire trip, I was afraid. But it was okay, because it's okay to be afraid. I actually remember I was handed this map, right? And it was a river guide. And I was sitting in the canoe, and I was asked, is that island all the way over there the same one that is on this map, right here? And I looked at it, and I was like, don't think so. And so I kind of looked at it from another angle, and I was like, I don't think so. I really think we're lost. I have no idea where we are. Call the helicopters. They're going to have to come rescue us and find us. I was so freaked out in that moment. And ultimately, Google Earth works just as good on rivers as it does on roads. So it turns out we weren't lost. We were exactly where we thought we were. But I was afraid. And it just goes to show that it's so easy to get worked up. It's easy to get afraid in moments when you don't know what's going on. And it's easy to be afraid in situations that you've never been put in before. But when you're with the right people, when you're in the right kind of environment, when people trust you, and that's an important one, you're always going to meet the goals. You're always going to do what you set out to do. And this trip, and working at camp as a whole, built my confidence, which brings me to my last point. At the end of my sophomore year, I was desperately lacking the confidence that I needed to go through life. And this is going to sound very cliche and anecdotal, but at this time last year, I was sitting in class watching everyone else give intelligent, passionate, intriguing, interesting TED Talks, and I thought to myself, I could never do that. I could never stand up there like they are and be so vulnerable and exposed and speak in front of all those people like that. And there is no way, if I hadn't worked at camp, that I could ever, in a million years, be up here. And not only did camp do that for me, that's what it does for kids. It's very important for kids, especially young kids, to build up their confidence, to know that they are good at something and that they are valued, especially for girls. Now, there is this very pervasive classroom stereotype, and we think it's gone away. It hasn't. You know, if a boy is in class and a teacher's asking questions and the boy raises his hand and answers all of them, he's smart. What is a girl? She does the same thing. She's bossy, she's rude, she's a know-it-all, and a whole slew of worse things, right? So it's very important for girls to know that it's okay to take up space, to be themselves, to raise their hand, and to have positive role models. That comes with camp. Maybe it's an older friend or the counselors. These are all positive people that girls see being themselves and loving it, which will help influence their lives in so many ways. And for years, believe me, years down the line will they remember. Perhaps one of the most profound moments of my summer, I was with a group of girls. They were older, 14, 15, and they were discussing exactly what it was that made them come back to camp year after year. What exactly brought them back? What made them sign up and pay all that money to come? You know, was it the canoeing, riding horses, their friends? What was it, right? And this one girl, she says, you know, at school, people don't really like me. I kind of get made fun of a lot. I don't have a lot of friends, and I find myself not speaking out. I keep my head down. But here it's different. People think I'm funny. People genuinely like me for me. And when I walk into a room, not only do I feel welcome, but I feel needed. And I've never had that anywhere else in my entire life. And upon hearing this, I was startled, because how incredible is it that that is the environment that she is in camp, that this place gives her somewhere to be herself, to feel welcome, to feel wanted. How incredible, and how even more existential and amazing that I was part of that. I couldn't believe it. I was part of something so much bigger than me, so much bigger than anything I'd ever done before in my entire life. So in conclusion, I want to touch upon one last important thing. When I came back from summer camp, people said that I was different. You know, dressed different, talked different, I liked different things. All these things about me that weren't quite the same as when I left. And it's true. There are a lot of things about me that are different. It changed my life. I've said that time and time again. But I am going to directly contradict myself and say, no, not really. All those pieces, all those parts, all that passion and all that confidence, it was all there before, but it needed the right environment, the right nurturing, the right people, the right presences, the right need for it to come out. That's all it needed. And I actually found myself after camp, after I got home, saying, I felt so good this summer. And when I'm at home, I feel disingenuous now because I can't be me. Now I have to fix my life. And I set out to fix things and stop doing things that made me unhappy and start acting the way I acted this summer so that I didn't feel disingenuous, so that I didn't feel bad, that I felt appreciated for who I was 100% of the time. That is the gift that you can give your child. Think about it. You can give your child the gift of friendship and empathy, indifference, and the ability to overcome adversity, the ability to celebrate the success that comes from failure. A lifelong love for the environment, and you can give them confidence. And not only that, you can give them a place of their own, and you can give them love. What an incredible gift, right? Now, this is going to sound, again, cliche and anecdotal, but so often we just don't let kids be kids. You know, they have tennis lessons, soccer clinic, travel basketball, all these things that they have to go do that take away from what is most important, their relationships, their character, themselves. So please decide to give your kids the greatest gift you could ever give them and send your kids to camp. Thank you.
If you have ever met our next speaker, Megan Constantino, you might know that she seems to have the answer to everything, whether it's in one of her many AP classes, whether it's in her role in the National Honor Society, or whether it's her role as prom chair. Megan tends to be involved in just about everything at the school. But Megan would be the first to tell you that there are many questions out there which can't be answered. And that's actually what she's going to tell us about today. Please welcome Megan, answering the unanswered questions of suicide.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Harold, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight to watch the TED Talks. I wanted to start by saying that 1 in 4 people develop a mental illness at one point in their lives, whether it be depression, anxiety, any social disorder, or eating disorder. But let me put that into perspective for you. Between you, the person to your left, the person to your right, and the person in front of you, one of you may be suffering from a mental illness at this point in your life. But one's appearance often contrasts the reality of his or her life. For example, my external involvement, perfectionism, and confidence coincides with the internal deterioration of my happiness every day. But by the physical look of me, and by my extroverted personality, one would never guess. Mental illness and suicide, it carries a certain stigma from society. However, I think we can do 3 things to stop the stigma. We can ask, talk, and listen. Acknowledging the situation allows the soul to begin the healing process, not only for those suffering, but those that want to offer their support as well. The constant disturbance of false image and external representation often leads to self-judgment. And I keep saying that images deceive reality, but let me explain why. This year, for AP Lit, I have Dr. Klein, and she's so inspiring and great at going word by word, analyzing every play that we read. In that, I would call myself a mini Shakespeare scholar because of her. But Shakespeare depicts one theme throughout all of his plays, the theme of appearance versus reality. He talks about hiding your personal flaws to try and hoax other people. For example, in his play Macbeth, he says, "Fair is foul, and foul is fair." This means that all things that are believed to be beautiful are actually worn out and distraught, and vice versa. But these themes that Shakespeare talked about in the Renaissance period still exist in today's society, although today they may be a bit more challenging. I was 12 years old the first time I tried to kill myself. 4 years later, at the age of 16, I tried to commit suicide again. Throughout my life, I always felt out of place. I was never friends with other girls. I never really cared about any societal norms. I just longed to be happy in my own way, but I felt like I was stuck. I always wanted to fit in with my surroundings and be comfortable with who I was, but I thought I had finally found an escape from the reality that I was living in: suicide. I now know that suicide is never the answer. Junior year, the worst year of my life. I stopped coming to school, and when I was here, I was crying in the bathroom because of all the pressures that I had on myself. I constantly felt like a disappointment to my friends and my family and my teachers. But keep in mind, I was taking 5 AP classes and participating in more extracurricular activities than I could count on with my hands. Until one day, I was sitting in AP Physics with Miss Giles. And for anyone that knows of her or of the class, it's not easy. Anyways, it was close to the end of the period, and she walked over to me and asked me to stay after class that day. And I froze. I didn't know what to say. I thought she was going to yell at me because I didn't turn an assignment in, but I already had so much on my mind that day. The bell rang, and she had walked over to me, and she said, "Megan, are you okay? You've looked upset lately." I immediately began to cry, because for once in my life, someone had asked me if I was okay. Her simple gesture ultimately saved my life. Saying one word could save someone's life. I think that we should change the stigma and do 3 things: ask, talk, and listen. To begin, asking. Asking one question can put someone else in control of the conversation. It can make them find their own answers. Asking questions such as, "Are you okay? Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" They're good conversation starters, but saying something like "why" can make people feel defensive and challenged at times. But remember, just because you're a support system doesn't mean you're responsible for having their answers. Answers at times can lessen or diminish someone's point of view about a topic. It's like you're almost trying to change the way they feel about it. Saying something as, "It's not that bad," can actually make someone feel worse about a situation. So remember, just because you don't have answers does not mean you're not helping. So in addition to asking, talking. A common misconception is that people don't want to talk about what they're going through. And this may be true, and in that circumstance, they will say no. But more often than not, people want to talk. They just don't have anyone to talk to. So if you're trying to decide on whether or not to talk to someone, there are 5 major warning signs to show someone is depressed. The first, putting themselves down in a serious or joking manner. If they say, "Nobody loves me," although this might be a joke, there's usually more of meaning behind it. Second, any drastic changes in appearance, such as cutting all their hair off, or any big style changes. And third, any drug or alcohol abuse. This is always a major red flag to show something's going on in someone's life. Fourth, any eating or sleeping changes. And then fifth, making leading statements, such as, "You'd never believe what I went through." They're already starting the conversation with you. We as humans just need to stop being so oblivious to the world around us. So now, on to the topic of listening. Has anyone ever heard of an active listener? You basically act as a sounding board. You don't influence the conversation at all, you only enhance it. You can enhance a conversation by doing 3 things. The first, reframing a question. By reframing a question, you get more than a yes or a no answer. Instead of saying, "Has this been happening a long time?" you could say, "How long has this been happening?" Second, summarize. By summarizing, you just reiterate what's going on in the conversation. For example, you can say, "So you've been fighting with your boyfriend for a while. Do you still love them?" And third, reflect. Reflect through repetition. If someone tells you, "It's been rough lately," you could say back, "So it seems rough for you. What about this?" It helps to clarify not only for you what's going on, but also the other person. Now, although asking, talking, and listening are great support strategies, it's always important to suggest further help, such as a social worker, a guidance counselor, or a parent, now that they feel comfortable opening up. But with that, take time to inspire other people. Let it guide your life and your work. Together, we can create a group of empowered supporters and a safe environment for self-healing. Together, we can see the invisible. Together, we can stop the stigma. And together, we can ask, talk, and listen. Thank you.
lazy, entitled, spoiled. These words have all been used to describe millennials, but our next speaker, Michaela Woods, might disagree. She's in French Club, in the Math League, in the Student Council, and in charge of the Da Vincian Society. Please welcome Michaela Woods with her open letter to millennials.
Hello. Can we all give another round of applause to Megan, Alana, and Karina, because they're amazing. Hi, my name is Michaela Woods, and I'm here to talk to you about inequality. You guys might be thinking, what does this 17-year-old white girl know about inequality? The truth is, we all know something about inequality. We've either A, dealt with it head on, B, read about it in our history books, or C, we've seen it on the news. Now, I'm here to write an open letter to millennials to show you how far we've truly come. Dear millennials, I'm going to show you how great you are by pointing out the trials and tribulations of the past. There have been plenty of years of darkness and distress. We've had wars, massacres, economic downfalls, mass murderers, scary dictators, and most of all, inequality among the masses. I deal with inequality because I'm a woman and I struggle with my mental health. If you think about it, women have only been able to vote for 100 years. We've gone from foot binding to stereotypes that say you have to stay in the kitchen, have to be a good housewife, do laundry, cook, clean, to finally having a voice in politics, to having a woman win the popular vote. This progression is crazy, and I'm so thankful for this progression because I someday want to go into the medical field, and if I was alive 100 years ago and said I wanted to be a woman doctor, people would have been like, you're crazy, you're supposed to be a housewife. And another progression I'm so grateful for is the acceptance of mental health. There used to be a huge stigma around mental health. You were told to deal with it one of two ways. You're either supposed to suck it up and toughen up, or you were locked in the loony bin, as they called it. These insane asylums were ran by nuns, and they cured depression with solitary confinement. Think about that for a moment. It's crazy how far we've come, and if this progression wouldn't have happened, I probably wouldn't have survived. I wouldn't be able to stand up here today and tell you I have anxiety, an OCD, and that I go to therapy each week. My classmates wouldn't be able to stand up here and tell you about their struggles and their mental disorders and share their stories with pride and strength. Now, enough about me and the problems I've faced in the past. Let's take it back to the 1600s, where slavery was legal, practiced regularly. These African Americans, because they were a different color than the majority, they were counted as 3/5 of a person. You fast forward a few hundred years, slavery is no longer legal, which is great, but racism has only just begun. You have Plessy versus Ferguson, Jim Crow laws, and separate but equal. Some may say this is a step in the right direction because slavery is no longer legal, but we know that we still have a long way to go. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his speech in 1963 to springboard the civil rights movement and lead us to equality. Now, you look at 2009, we have a black president inaugurated that's going to be here for 2 terms. In 2016, we have Black Lives Matter movements, and we have a lot of people in culture and a lot of people of color in culture. We all know who Beyonce is. Now, we need to keep moving forward. Another progression I'm going to speak about is the acceptance of gay marriage. In the 1920s, 1930s, around there, they treated homosexuality with electric shock therapy. Fast forward to June 26, 2015, and gay marriage is legalized in all 50 states. This fight for love inspired equality across the board, not just with homosexuality. Now, why is it that in a few hundred years, women have gone from housewives to doctors and presidential candidates? It's because the people love and the people care. Why is it that I can stand up here today and tell you guys I have a mental illness and I'm still a successful woman and I'm not in an insane asylum? It's because the people love and the people care. Why is it that we had a black president for 2 terms and slavery is non-existent? It's because the people love and the people care. Why is it that you can marry whoever you want now? It's because the people love and the people care. This love is the common denominator in fighting for equality. We need to band together now more than ever. The only way is if we accept each other. We can't divide into groups. This common denominator is the reason why the Women's March had 3 times the attendees as the presidential inauguration. This fight is why you can marry whoever you want now. This fight and this love is why we have Black Lives Matter movements. And this fight is why this TED Talk exists and why we can share our stories. These changes were made by the people and for the people. We were raised to make changes, but we still have a long ways to go. We can't just settle with, you know what, we're almost legal. We're almost equal. We're equal on paper. It's fine. We need to keep going. We are the ones making changes, and we were raised by people who make changes. We are going to raise our kids to make changes as well, and they're going to raise their kids the same. The truth is, I believe millennials are the game changers. We're stepping in the right direction. We are the game changers. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to take a brief 10-minute intermission to think about some of these game-changing ideas. And the good news, we have snacks. So if you head outside in honor of one of our earlier speakers today, they're mostly plant-based snacks, but we've got some chemicals in there as well. So we'll get back in about 8 o'clock. We'll see you then. Feel free to use the restroom right around the corner. right, welcome back to the second half. We've got 4 more speakers this evening, each more exciting than the last. We've been talking about progress today, and progress is generally considered to be a positive thing, but sometimes it has a cost to it. After all, we were able to avoid 9 feet of horse manure in the streets, but there's plenty of issues that we're still talking about today. To discuss some of them in further detail, please welcome Emma Dowker with her talk, Redefining Progress.
Hi. So with me tonight, I have about 570 plastic bags, and the number 570 is representative of one of my classmates who every day in his lunch, he brings a plastic bag, and in it he puts his plastic bottle, which he drinks his beverage out of, and a plastic Ziploc bag. And the plastic Ziploc bag contains his sandwich, which is usually about like half a pound of chipped ham. And the issue with animal agriculture and the effect it has on the environment is a completely different TED Talk that one of my amazing mentor, Michelle Jenkins, gave earlier today. So if you'd like to hear about the effects of animal agriculture on the environment, then watch hers. But talking about plastic. So these plastic bags that I have right next to me are representative for one person for 3 years of their lunch, 3 consecutive years of bringing a plastic bag every day. And if this is all of this waste for one person, one time a day, and you multiply it for 18 years of existence, that's a lot more than that would fit in this shopping cart I rented from Giant Eagle. And you multiply this by everyone in the audience tonight for our entire lifetimes, and you're looking at so much waste that I probably wouldn't be able to stand on this stage because it would just be filled. And how do we produce this waste? Where does it come from? Well, virtually every single thing we buy in the grocery store or for toiletries, everything is in some sort of disposable packaging. Whether it's plastic, doesn't matter. Always wasting some sort of non-decomposable product. And this is a large problem, not just because it fills up bags, but a larger issue. The photographer who takes these beautiful pictures of melting ice, his name is James Baylog, and he argues that the most powerful issue of our time is the disconnection between humans and nature. And this disconnection is represented through the act of throwing something away. The term throwing something away speaks volumes in of itself because it's not gone forever. It's not eviscerated from the planet. It's out of sight, out of mind. And every day when my classmate throws away his plastic bag, his little plastic bundle, it adds up. And just because we don't have to see it, we don't have to carry our trash around, we don't have to leave it in our front yards, but it's still there. And whenever I was getting ready to talk tonight, the event, everyone would ask me what I was talking about. When I would mention I'm talking about the environment, I would get the most devastating responses. People would either look unamused or uninterested or just really concerned for me. And they would say, "Why are you doing that? Why are you getting on stage and preaching about the environment? No one cares, no one wants to care, no one wants to hear what you have to say about why we have to take shorter showers and take bikes everywhere we go, or drive a Prius, or go vegan tomorrow. No one wants to hear me talk about these things." And they're right. And the disconnection that we have is a problem for me, it's a problem for everyone, and it's exemplified in the waste we produce. And I'm not here to warn you about global warming or climate change because we really just don't have the time to debate whether or not it's an issue. When you hear people in the media or politicians talk about combating climate change, it always seems like a hypothetical, far off, maybe situation. Worst case scenario, it gets a degree or 2 warmer in Pittsburgh. I really don't care anyway. I don't like the cold. I don't mind if it gets a little bit warmer. But global warming and climate change are much bigger and broader terms. And it's the little things that we do every day that affect the environment in ways that we're privileged enough that we don't have to think about, like throwing things away. So where does all this trash go? If this is, like I said, one person, a small scale for waste of an entire lifetime, imagine the entire room tonight, the entire state of Pennsylvania, the entire United States. That's a lot of waste for a lot of people, and so much of it that there are these trash islands deposited in oceans around the world. And the largest one of them is about the size of Texas. And Texas is a very big place, and it's full of people who also produce a lot of waste. So you have these various deposits of just pure trash circling around in the ocean, nothing more, nothing less than the waste we produce. Looks very nice, it's very photogenic, great photo opportunity. And this is us. This is our waste. It's also everybody else's, but it's ours. At some point in our lives, we've thrown something away. Whether you recycle at home, we still drink out of plastic bottles or use plastic bags, or literally everything we use on a daily basis is in some sort of plastic. When I was trying to think of anecdotes I could use to fully put to scale how much waste we produce, because these islands from far away, they aren't too impressive to me. But all of this waste, I said, it's us. And why do we do this? Why do we use something once and throw it away? If we saw some sort of alien society that was using something once and throwing it away, we'd think they were crazy. One of our huge life lesson that we learn growing up is not to waste. Whether it's food or anything, don't be wasteful. But what is more wasteful than going to Starbucks and getting a plastic cup and a plastic straw and drinking out of it once and throwing it away to never see it again? When you could literally just as easily have a reusable plastic cup, reusable plastic straw, produce a lot of less waste that's here in these beautiful pictures, or perhaps a reusable coffee cup. This was $2 at the checkout at Starbucks. It looks exactly the same as the disposable paper ones. No one has to know you're being environmentally friendly. It can be your sustainable secret. No one will call you a crazy tree hugger. It can be all on your own. And why does it matter? Why am I encouraging you to do these things? This doesn't affect me. I don't care about the planet. Why should I? Well, you could say that you don't, and that would be kind of reasonable, but the problem is we are the Earth. We are the planet. We cannot continue to progress as a society if we don't have a planet to live on. If we have the cognitive power as intelligent human beings to create pocket computers where we can have access to unlimited information at any given time on any topic we desire, or we have the power to create methods of transportation like cars or planes that get us comfortably around the world in an amount of time that would be utterly unfathomable 200 years ago. If we have the power and the incentive to do these things, then why don't we have the same incentive to revolutionize the way that we treat and affect the environment? Because we are the environment. And even though you don't want to take shorter showers, you don't want to bike places, neither do I. And it's just as simple, as I mentioned earlier, using something reusable, or keeping in the back of your mind, what could I be doing that would be less wasteful, or even just think about it, just start to develop the thought. I want to make sure I fully express tonight the extent of the environmental destruction that we're perpetuating. Not just through waste, not just through animal agriculture, but even with cars, for example. If you were to put your mouth on the exhaust pipe of a car and you breathe in the fumes, what would happen? You would be poisoned. You don't want that for yourself. And just because it's not directly on your mouth, breathing it in, this still all flows into the air that we breathe. And Like I said, we can't live on the planet and continue to progress if we don't have clean air to breathe or clean water to drink. And just because we don't drink ocean water and we don't have to ingest the salty, spiraling sewage that's slowly breaking down in the oceans, unfortunately, a lot of sea life do. And they ingest this plastic or are wrapped around in it. These plastic bags that are floating in the ocean, turtles mistake them for jellyfish, and so they eat plastic bags. And I would not want to eat these. I don't think anybody else would tonight either. But virtually everything we buy in the store is wrapped in plastic. And if we don't want to breathe that in, then why do we wrap our food in it and buy it and waste it? So how do we fix these sort of things? Well, in Norway, the demand for trash is so high that other countries actually export them their waste because they found a way to decompress garbage and break it down into a renewable energy source. It's no pollution, eco-friendly, sustainable for the environment, and it's a win-win because you're getting rid of waste and you're using less environmentally friendly methods of energy like oil or natural gas. And if you don't care about the planet side of it, then think about the long-term economic growth that would come out of a whole new side of independent energy. The United States, imagine the power we would have if we completely transformed all of our wasteful habits and all of our habits that are bad for the environment into a long-term economic benefit for us. So I want to make sure I leave tonight with the idea, because it's easy to be inspired once, to decide tonight that I'm never going to waste again, or I'm never ever going to use plastic for the rest of my life. It's very, very difficult. And working on it myself, it's absolutely mind-boggling how we use plastic in every part of our lives. But it's not just plastic, it's just the basic idea. The stereotype surrounding environmentalism or the people you affiliate, like myself, a crazy vegan liberal environmentalist with a huge shopping cart of plastic bags standing on a stage talking to you tonight. It's more than just this. It's more than just bringing a reusable coffee cup and keeping it your secret. It's the power and the absolute fundamental necessity we need to have. If we want to continue to advance and progress as a society, as Americans, as humans, then we have to channel our incentives and our desire to live on the planet to ensure our longest life on here as possible, because quite literally, our lives are dependent on the choices we make today. Thank you.
Okay, so new plan, the plastic bottles that you're all holding, those are yours for the next year. Our next speaker is often found not on dry land, but in the water. Olivia Altavilla is a 4-time letter in swimming and a 3-time Whippeal champion. But here today she's to talk about exceeding expectations. I have Olivia in class, and often when students have to write something, they have to write something that's 300, 500, 600 words. For Olivia, it's closer to 10,000. Here to tell you a little bit more about that, please welcome Olivia Altavilla with her talk, Blue Collar Kid.
Dear fellow first-generation college students, I believed in Santa Claus until I was 12 years old. 1, because I have a very childlike imagination. And 2, because I couldn't fathom the idea of my parents having enough money to afford the gifts for 3 children. Most of us grew up as blue-collar kids, as did I. In my story, my father, like his father and father before and brothers, was a construction worker who built houses, hospitals, and took on as many side jobs as he could to pay for a roof over our head. My mother cleaned houses, toilets, and took care of elderly people to pay for my future education. Neither of my parents have degrees. My brother never graduated high school. So when I told my parents, hey, I want to go to college, it was a big moment for us. When I told them this back in 7th grade, they were worried how financially stable we would be at the time. As time went on, with my 4.0 GPA and my work ethic, they suggested to me to take up a field in medicine. That didn't sound like too bad of an idea, a big house, I could have a big family. I wouldn't ever really need to worry about anything because I would have the wealth I needed. So for 6 years of my life, I prepared to go to med school. I took the classes, I prepared, I got into really great schools, I got a lot of money in scholarships. But then senior year, I did something that I wanted to do for the first time in my life. My senior year, I wrote a novel called The 10, and in your pamphlets, it says I wrote a 10,000-word novel. That's a mistake, it was 50,000. I would come home every day from school my bus lets me off at 3 o'clock. I would go to bed and then wake up at 8:30. I would write until 3 in the morning. Sometimes I would just stay up and then go to school the next day. And I would email Dr. Harold and send him all my progress. And I was having the time of my life, creating a little world of people. I wrote about 10 friends living in New York City, and they all had their faults. I wrote about my friends. They celebrated their way through life through music, art, writing, dance, everything that I loved. But it wasn't until after I finished my novel and I looked back on it, and it's terrible, by the way. Grammar mistakes everywhere. It's just not the best. But people wanted to read it. So I've just recently let a teacher of mine start to read it. And so I looked back on it, and I've looked back on it before. And the first time I did, I realized what I wrote. I wrote exactly who I wanted to be and where I wanted to be in life. I didn't want to be a doctor or a construction worker or a nurse. I didn't want to be my parents. And that was okay. So when I told my mom that I wanted to go to art school and I wanted to make art and I wanted to make things that mattered to me and to other people, she was a little hesitant. Saving a lot of money for the biggest payout, and then telling your parents that I'm gonna be a starving artist and I might have to eat my paintings to survive. Not the best dinner topic, but I told them, and I cried because I was scared, and my mother cried because I had hurt her feelings. But I didn't hurt her feelings because I didn't want to be a doctor. I hurt her feelings because I didn't tell her who I wanted to be. After I told her who I wanted to be, everything opened up in my life. I felt more comfortable doing art. I was better at it. I had more friends. I could write a lot faster and a lot easier. I've written many papers at 11:50 that were due at midnight and gotten great grades on them. But that's not the point. I wasn't happy with my life as a doctor. Sure, if I wanted money, that's what I would do. But it's not about the money. It's about happiness. And when I say happiness, I mean true happiness, sitting with your friends at 8 o'clock at night in Eaton Park and laughing. Not the fake, let me sit here and smile for my picture. That's not it. It's not. And it's scary, and it always will be. But I don't think people, especially my family, expected me to go on the route that I am. I am so scared to go. I'm so scared to go to art school. But I'd be more scared and upset with myself if I went to medical school. It doesn't matter where you come from or where your parents expected you to be, or who you even thought you were last Tuesday. It matters who you are in this moment right now. Right now, I'm standing on a set of train tracks, and there is a train coming for me, faster and faster each day. I can see the light coming towards me, and I either get off these tracks and get to make every choice for the rest of my life, or I let this train hit me and am babied by my parents for the rest of my life. This is no dig to parents, especially mine or anyone else who told you what they thought was best for you. They're only trying to help you, but you in the end have to make your own decisions on things. I chose to get off the tracks. I'm not sitting, I'm not waiting. I jumped off early. And even though I'm scared and terrified, and you will be too if you're changing your life last minute, you will always, and especially I will always be okay, because my roots will always be in my blue-collar family, and they'll always support me and love me, but my branches will be who I choose to be and what decisions I make. Thank you.
One of the requirements and hallmarks of every TEDx conference is not just that we show you the homegrown talent, but that we connect you to the existing TED Talks as well. And so, since today is about being a game changer and looking at things in a new way, I thought, well, what could be looked in a better way but spam email? So please enjoy James Fedich in his talk, What Happens When You Reply to Spam Email? It's quite a journey.
A few years ago, I got one of those spam emails. And it managed to get through my spam filter. I'm not quite sure how, but it's turned up in my inbox, and it was from a guy called Solomon Odonka. I know. It went like this. It said, hello, James Veach. I have an interesting business proposal I want to share with you, Solomon. Now, my hand was kind of hovering on the delete button. Right? As you are, I was looking at my phone. I thought, I could just delete this. Or I could do what I think we've all always wanted to do. And I said, Solomon, your email intrigues me. And the game was afoot. He said, Dear James Veach, we shall be shipping gold to you. You will earn 10% of any gold you distribute. So I knew I was dealing with a professional. I said, how much is it worth? He said, we will start with a smaller quantity. I was like, ah. And then he said, of 25 kilograms. The worth should be about 2.5 million. I said, Solomon, if we're going to do it, let's go big. I can handle it. How much gold do you have? He said, it's not a matter of how much gold. How much is you're capable of handling? What? We can start with 50 kilograms as a trial shipment. I said, 50 kilograms? There's no point doing this at all unless you're shipping at least a metric ton. So what do you do for a living? I said, I'm a hedge fund executive bank manager. This isn't the first time I've shipped bullion, my friend. No, no, no. Then I started to panic. I was like, now look, where are you based? I don't know about you, but I think we're going via the postal service. It ought to be signed for. Right, that's a lot of gold. He said, it will not be easy to convince my company to do a larger quantity shipment. And I said, Solomon, I'm completely with you on this one. I'm putting together a visual for you to take into the board meeting. Hold tight. This is what I sent Solomon. I don't know if we have any statisticians in the house, but there's definitely something going on. I said, Solomon, attach this email, you'll find a helpful chart. I've had one of my assistants run the numbers. We need to be shipping as much gold as possible. There's always a moment where they try to tug your heartstrings, and this was it for Solomon. He said, I will be so much happy if the deal goes well, because I'm going to get a very good commission as well. And I said, that's amazing. What are you going to spend your cut on? And he said, on real estate, what about you? I thought about it for a long time. And I said one word: hummus.
We'll leave you in suspense on the rest of James's story. You'll have to check out the rest on your own. For our next speaker, our penultimate speaker this evening, Aaron Ferrari, I have to tell you, I have a lot of respect for Aaron. Because when you think about it, when you go swimming, what's the worst part? Getting in the pool, right? That's literally all she does. Aaron is on the diving team and has done quite well over the past couple of years. But Aaron is here to talk to us about something a little different. Please welcome Aaron Ferrari talking about her talk, Turn the Page, Leaving Satisfaction.
It wasn't too long ago that I fell victim to an enormous amount of overbearing stress. I mean, don't we all at some point? My stress derived from being a 3-sport athlete, a part of 6 different teams, doing multiple activities, not getting enough sleep, not eating right, maintaining a 4.2 GPA, and I was doing what every other high school senior does. I was writing what seems like, no, not what seems like, what was 1,000 college and scholarship essays. And during this period of stress, I just kept telling myself, I was like, Aaron, this isn't gonna last forever. Just write your paper and go to bed. Like, it'll all go away sometime. But one day, I got tired of waiting for it all to disappear. I decided that I was going to become proactive and make it disappear myself. It was at that very moment I decided to leave my satisfaction. Being the awesome AP Calc student that I am, I came up with my very own formula to change myself. And I did this in hopes to find a newer and better satisfaction. But first, what do I mean when I say leaving my satisfaction? Isn't the main goal in life to try and attain it? So why would I want to leave it? Well, the answer is simple. I found that I was forcing myself into being satisfied with the things in my life because being 17, I didn't think that I could change them. I was growing away from the things that used to bring me joy, and I was in denial about it. I didn't want to accept the fact that I wasn't meant to play sports for the rest of my life. I had the desire to be something more, to be something better, but I couldn't do this without accepting that there were things holding me back. And even though I wanted to play sports forever and I never want to leave this high school that I love, when I was going through this, I realized that just because I won't be doing something every single day of my life anymore doesn't make me love it any less. And just because I won't be coming to this building anymore doesn't make me love it any less. You can still love something if you don't do it every single day and if it doesn't bring you joy every single second. And that leads me to the first part of my formula. I subtracted from my life the things that were holding me back. Whenever you want to change yourself, you have to let go. When we talk about new beginnings, people often don't realize that new beginnings are another beginning's end. And though it breaks my heart that I'm sort of leaving my current life and that I may not talk to some people ever again after high school, but it was the right thing to do because in order to be that person that I want to be, I had to let some things go. I then came up with the second part of my equation. I had to replace the things that I let go. And when I was going through this stressful dilemma, pun intended, I realized that all it takes to change yourself is not a vision or a plan, because I certainly do not have a plan, or a goal. All it takes is adding new things to your life. When you experience things out of your habit, you gain new perspectives, which can often lead to different outlooks on life. The world is so big that humans, we are often so naive because we don't go out and experience it. It's because we are so obsessed with this thing we call our comfort zone. You cannot just exist in this world. You have to live in it somehow. And if you want to live in it, you have to get out of your comfort zone and you have to leave your satisfaction. Nothing ever great happens when we're in here, so why are we all still living in it? My message may be cliche, but you only have one life. Go after change and embrace it. Take the leap of faith. You don't need a destination or a plan or any of that stuff to get on your way. You have to understand that there may be an overrated sense of satisfaction in your life, and you have to be willing to let go and try new things. You are given two options in this world. You can stay, or you can leave. You can stay in your comfort zone forever, and you'll be safe here. You can stay in it forever, and you can watch as everybody goes around you as they start getting on their way. Or you can leave. You can follow what may be the simplest formula ever created by a 17-year-old, and you can leave your comfort zone, and you can leave your satisfaction. So make the right choice. Thank you.
Our final speaker this evening has had a pretty successful week. In fact, just yesterday, she was on this stage giving another talk as co-president of the National Honor Society. And yet, Natalie Wida is not perfect. In fact, she calls herself an ex-perfectionist. Let's find out why. Please welcome Natalie Wida with her talk, The Chronicles of an Ex-Perfectionist.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. Growing up, I used to be a very type A personality. I was involved in just about everything that I could be. I was a straight A student since second grade, since that one time I got a B in gym, and I had above a 4.0 GPA all through high school. I was a dancer, in color guard, and on dance team, and I just extended myself to everything that I possibly could. I'm the co-president of the National Honor Society, I'm part of the National Art Honor Society, and I'm in most of the clubs in this school. It seems great until you lose yourself. I got caught up in a whirlwind of all these different activities and expectations and resume builders. High schoolers these days are taught that more equates better, and we all want to do more and be more in this world. And this is all great until you stop taking care of yourself. And that's when I developed an eating disorder. I always thought that anorexia was reserved for the Karen Carpenters of the world, the ones who are emaciated and literally on their deathbed. But I was painfully wrong. I thought that in this spinning whirlwind that was my crazy and awesome life, that I needed to gain control over something. And for me, that was my body and what I ate. And I saw all these media messages about the perfect diet and how to work out to get the flat abs and thigh gap of your dreams. And I got caught up in it, and it slowly became obsessive, and I wanted it to be perfect just like everything else. And it slowly started to deteriorate my life. And I became a shell of the girl that I used to be, and I was miserable. And I needed to seek treatment. So I left school for 12 weeks during my junior year in order to get better. And it was the hardest thing that I've ever done. I sat in the office of my therapist, and I was like, how can I leave school? How can I leave dance? You're asking me to not move. You're asking me to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos. Like, how am I supposed to do this? And they were like, Natalie, you are so sick. You need to take a break. And so reluctantly, I did, and it saved my life. And after 12 weeks, I was physically better enough to come back to school and devote myself to my academics again. But I was still struggling mentally, and I slowly relapsed, and we knew that I was going to need to go to treatment again. But this time, it was a longer process. I spent my summer not long ago in Miami, and it was beautiful, but it was also terrible. I was in a residential treatment center with 6 other girls, and we were asked to do so much and so little at the same time. Every day we woke up and we ate breakfast, and then we had therapy, and then we had a morning snack, and then we had more therapy or some other type of group exercise, and then we had lunch, and then we did some crying and some screaming into pillows, and then we had another snack, and then we had yoga, and then we had dinner, and then we went back to our townhouse and hung out, and then we had to eat another snack, and then we went to bed. And this was every day for almost 2.5 months. And it was exhausting, but it was exhausting because for the first time in years, I had to reflect on myself. And I was wondering, I'm like, how am I ever going to get out of this? Because I need to be perfect. I can't walk around and have bigger legs and a stomach rolls, and what is going to happen? Like, I can't do that. I'd rather be dead. And I had to come to the realization that it wasn't my body that was the problem. It wasn't my eating habits that were the problem. It was my perfectionism. So what is perfectionism? It's the refusal to accept any standard short of perfection. For a while, I even denied that I was a perfectionist. I would say something along the lines of, I have a 94 in Calc BC right now. How could I be a perfectionist? I'm not even trying that hard. And just that saying shows how deeply ingrained and ridiculous it is. Everyone in our society seems to hold themselves to these impossibly high standards, and we believe that our imperfections are our fault. We are taught to think that our frizzy hair or our low IQ or our bad test grades or our wrinkled clothes are something that we are responsible for fixing on a daily basis. And that's wrong. You can't fix something that you were born with that's different from the rest of society. It's something that you have to grow with and learn with and turn into your life rather than trying to run away from it. And that's when the nasty A word comes in. Not that one, but this one. Acceptance. Acceptance is a long process that you have to work on pretty much forever. I mean, I am still accepting who I am and where I am. And when you deal with perfectionism or extremely high standards, you have to work on accepting your flaws just as much as I do. But I have 5 steps to combating perfectionism and turning your life into something that's meaningful and has happiness in it. Number 1, remove the all or nothing mindset. An example of this is, if I don't go to an Ivy League college, I'm dumb. That's ridiculous. There's so many shades in between 2 extremes of thinking, and we tend to get caught up in this all or nothing mindset, like cake is bad and vegetables are good, and there's nothing in between, but that's not true. There's balance, and there's joy, and there's an all-inclusive lifestyle that you can live. Number 2, start saying no. And this seems a little hypocritical because this week has been extremely busy for me. I've had my NHS banquet last night, I have a dance recital this weekend, and I'm very stressed out. But it's a learning experience, and I'm realizing that I need to take my own advice. And saying no is the most important thing that you can do when you're so overwhelmed and so stressed out. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You can't give yourself fully to what you want to do when you are overextended in too many places. So you need to protect yourself and say no to the things that you don't want to do. Number 3, make a gratitude list. This is important when you feel like something is overwhelming, taking over your life, and you feel like it's the end of the world. Like you get an 89 on your chemistry test and you're like, I'm gonna fail out of high school. Not true. If you make a list of all of the things that you're thankful for, like a roof over your head, clean water, a family, legs to walk on, being privileged enough to live in the United States of America and create all that plastic, you will realize that your mountain is actually a molehill, and you can take a step back and a better perspective on what's going on. Number 4, use positive affirmations. I'm sure some of you have heard these and think it might be kind of stupid to stand in the mirror in the morning and be like, I'm pretty, I'm awesome. But positive affirmations for me are a calming statement when I'm in a state of terror. Like when you're driving and you realize you're lost and you have no idea what to do and you're like, do I pull off the road? Like what's going on? And you say to yourself, I am strong, I can do this. And that is just a simple phrase, and you say that to yourself when you are in turmoil, and you bring yourself down from that high anxiety, high perfectionistic thinking. Number 5, love yourself. This is a common trend of a lot of the talks that have gone on today. And the reason that everyone is saying it is because it's so true and so important. Because if you don't care for yourself, then you don't let the love of others in. And I experienced this myself when I was going through my struggles. I wasn't letting anyone else into my life. I was so isolated and so sad. But now that I am more open and more generous and more in love with myself, I let the love in. And it doesn't have to be bubble baths and lighting candles and coloring pretty pictures. Loving yourself is taking care of yourself. It means going to bed when you're tired. It means staying home when you're sick. And it means letting others know what you need from them to support you so that you don't get too strung out and end up having more harm done. Brené Brown, a author and shame studier and inspiration, says that perfectionism is a 20-ton shield that we lug around thinking it will protect us when, in fact, it's the thing that's really preventing us from taking flight. So if you take anything home tonight from this talk, is that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be everything to everyone, because you can't be. It's not physically possible. So this is your permission to take a rest, take a break, ask for a break, email your teacher and ask them to turn in your outline a day late, and they'll probably let you do it. If you are genuine and you are taking care of yourself, you are going to live the best life that you can, and that is the most important thing to take home. Thank you.
Well, this concludes our program, ladies and gentlemen. Before you take off, I just wanted to give some special thanks and praise to our intrepid video crew back there. They've been working hard all day, nay, all week. Give them a round of applause, please. As well as our stage crew in the back. They've done a great job helping to put this all together. And, you know, let's give our speakers one last round of applause. It's not only challenging to share so much about yourself, but even to get up on this red dot is a challenge in and of itself. As you leave, please be sure to take some more snacks. We still have them. And take a beverage for the road, but keep the container forever. Thank you.